that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Winter reveals the hidden lie. Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.
all the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Hello. Welcome to the channel, everybody. If you've not been here before, sorry. Welcome to the Hillbilly Train. This is Hillbilly Crime. My name is Elizabeth, and Sweet Tater is tired and in the bed already. So she won't be joining us tonight. But how is everybody? We got a whole bunch of people already in here tonight. Good to see you. We got new members. Ryan Adams, a new member. Welcome to the family. RJG for Hello Hillbilly Crime Friends. This is better than basketball. I don't know, man. I don't know. These depositions or something. Lady AR62. Thank you for your super sticker. Leanne Go. And I want to send a special shout out to Miss Marnie. Marnie, thank you so much for your support, Sissy. It means so much. You've been supporting us for a while now, and I'm really grateful. And Miss Veronica, thank you. Thank you. Bless you. All right, so we have read most of the depositions that have been released. So we've read through Mickey's deposition. We have read through Ben's deposition. We've read through LaShawna's and, of course, Sabrina's. We got the affidavit from Jennifer Hill's boyfriend, and we read through that. And now we finally have come to Miss Patty Stockham's. And if you paid attention to the thumbnail that I put on for this show, I got on their Facebook. I looked up Miss Patty's Facebook, and they had a picture on there. I guess it was the front of their property. Like some places have those like brick things at the front of their driveways. That's kind of what it looked like. And it said the House of Stockham. And there have been a lot of I don't know if it's rumor or not, but they say that they have a big old mansion somewhere. I'm not sure where it's at, but so we're going to read through this deposition. Now, I'm going to read some of this before I switch it over, just to get through some of this beginning stuff. So it says that it's Sabrina Atkins and the estate of Jennifer Hill are the plaintiffs versus Ben Fields individually and in his official capacity as a deputy sheriff with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department. So that's why he's usually got two lawyers that represent him. One represents him in his official capacity and the other in his individual capacity. And then it says Eastern Kentucky Correctional Services, Inc. So they are also named, which is the company that Patty owns. And Mickey Stines, Letcher County Sheriff. And I was wrong. So I said on Gavin's show last night that I thought Mickey was only named in his official capacity. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this over now so you guys can see it. And let me zoom it in here. And y'all can see. Look there. Mickey Stines, Letcher County Sheriff, individually and in his official capacity as sheriff of Letcher County Sheriff's Department. So we were wrong. I was wrong. I thought that he was only named in his official capacity. So that kind of even confuses me more on Daniel Dotson being there for Mickey's testimony in person, but he's not listed on the rest of these depositions, meaning he wasn't present for everybody else's testimony. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that we thought that it was, excuse me, we thought that it was kind of odd that we couldn't find an entry of appearance for Daniel Dotson regarding that case or that deposition. And I spoke to a lady who used to work in our circuit court clerk's office for many years. And she said that as long as it is written in the front of these depositions saying that he was there, that's all that it takes. So he wouldn't have had to have had an entry of appearance. So that was a red herring, a mute issue. But I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned it. Okay. So the deposition of Patty Stockham was taken on behalf of plaintiff on July 11th, 2024 at the law office of Don Jones in Paintsville, Kentucky. Now, something else I also want to mention here is, let's see. Thank you, Miss Connie. something else that I wanted to mention is the order in which they sat for their depositions. So I'm not sure what date Sabrina's or Jennifer, all we have of Jennifer's is the audio of her interview for the criminal case of Ben Fields. We don't have a deposition from her because she passed away before these were done. So I'm not sure about when Sabrina did hers. I can easily go back and look, but I'll have to do that later. But the order in which these people were deposed. So you had Ben's deposition that was done the week before Mickey pew-pewed the judge. Then on that Monday, Mickey sat for his. So Ben and Mickey's were done within a week of each other, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they were done within a week of each other. LaShawna's deposition, the one that we read the other night, wasn't done until after the judge was already pew-pewed. I think hers was like in January of this year, of 25. So her deposition was just recently given. And then this one was July 11th, 2024. So it looks to me like hers, this one of Patty's, was the very first one of the people who were named in the lawsuit as defendants. Said deposition was taken pursuant to notice and all that. And then you've got Bethany Baxter. And if you notice here, you've got Janet Stumbo, who is sitting in on this instead of Ned. That's Ned's wife. And she is like a history-making lawyer here in Kentucky. I think they said that she was the first woman that was ever appointed to, like, I'm not sure which court it was, but I thought it was the Supreme Court, maybe. I'm not sure. Now, on behalf of the defendants, you've got John Kelly, Jonathan Shaw, and Don Jones. And then also present, Sabrina Adkins via Zoom. So there was a representative at each one of these. And so that just surprises me that Dotson wasn't at any of them, wasn't present. And he could have been present via Zoom. But anyway, it probably doesn't even matter. It's just stuck in my head. All right. Direct examination. And so this is Miss Bethany Baxter. She's the one that has conducted all of the questioning for all of the depositions. Good morning. We met earlier today. My name is Bethany Baxter, and I represent the plaintiffs in this case, Sabrina Adkins and the estate of Jennifer Hill. I have with me today Janet Stumbo, who is co-counsel with Mr. Pillersdorf's office. And I guess first question, have you ever given a deposition before? No. Okay. As your attorney may have told you, it is a fairly informal process. I am going to ask you some questions today. You are under oath, so your job is to answer the question truthfully and to the best of your ability. If I ask you a question that doesn't make sense, or if I talk too fast, which I am prone to do, just ask me to repeat it or rephrase it, and I'm happy to do that. Okay? If you don't ask me to repeat or rephrase the question, I'm going to assume that you understood my question and that your answer is responsive to that question. Does that sound fair? Sounds fair. Other thing that is often an issue here is that sometimes folks respond with a shake of the head. Okay, and I'm just going to pass on that. Okay. All right. Well, let's start here. What is your full name? Sway, your full name for the record. Patty Darlene Stockham. Patty, where were you born? Majestic, Kentucky. What county is that? Pike County. Okay. And did you live in Majestic, I guess, through high school? No. I just kind of walk me through where that you lived through high school. Pikeville. So where did you move, I guess, from Majestic to Pikeville? To the city of Pikeville? Yes. Okay. And then did you go to college after graduating high school? Yes. Where did you go to college? Pikeville College. What did you study? I just went a year. Okay. After that 1 year at Pikeville College, did you start working somewhere? No. Were you married? I got married. Okay. Who did you get married to? Johnny Greer. I wonder if that's Johnny Greer who my ex grew up with. Any of you all that are from here in Jenkins and y'all know who I married, guitar playing. He always talked about mean old Johnny Greer. And that when he grew up, he actually grew up and became quite normal and pretty successful. But said that he was meaner than a striped snake when he was a kid. I wonder if that's the same one. Okay, 32 years. Did you and Mr. Greer have any children? 2. What are their names? Amy and Todd. Do they live in Eastern Kentucky? Yes. What county do they live in? Pike County. Is Amy married? Yes. Todd lives in Louisville. Okay. What is Amy's married name? Ratliff. And she lives in Pike County? Yes. After Johnny Greer, have you been married to any other persons? Joe Stockham. Okay. When did you marry Joe Stockham? 2007. And did your marriage with Johnny Greer end in divorce? Deceased. And then you married Mr. Stockham in 2007. Did you live with Mr. Stockham in Pike County also? No. Did you move from Pike County in 2007? Yes. Where did you move to? South Shore, Kentucky. That's where all of my family are originally from. Both my mother's side and my father's side are all from South Shore. Greenup. Is that in Boyd County? That is in Greenup County. You still live in Greenup County today? Yes. Okay, we are here to talk about Eastern Kentucky Correctional Services. Were you married to Mr. Greer at the time that company was founded? Founded, yes. And I guess just help me understand why you and Mr. Greer, how you came to start that company and what the company started to do. What kind of services it was meant to provide. I don't know why he started it. Okay. Did he have a different company before then? What kind of work did he do? He was the Pike County Jail Administrator. Okay. What does a Pike County Jail Administrator do? I don't know. Did you work outside the home in 1987? Nope. Did you have young kids, I assume, at that time? Yes. I was a young kid at that time. So I am probably about the same age as your kids. So Johnny Greer started Eastern Kentucky Corrections Services. I guess it was Correctional Services. What did you understand that company to do? It was a house arrest program. Okay. Did he quit his job with the jail? No. Okay. So he continued working with the jail and also started this house arrest company? Yes. And at that time, Did the house arrest company, did they utilize ankle monitors? Yes. Did he have any partners in that business? Nope. If you know at that time, was there any sort of oversight by the court system as far as how he operated? I don't know. I saw some reference in the articles of the corporation to a person named Stanley Wilkins. Do you know who that is? Yes. Who is Stanley Wilkins? He used to work for my husband. Okay, in what capacity? He ran home incarceration for him while he... Do you want to finish your sentence? He worked for him because John was the jail administrator. Okay. And there was a different office. So aside from Mr. Wilkins, were there other folks who also worked for Eastern Kentucky Correction Solutions during that time period? No. Okay. Did Eastern Kentucky Correction Solutions, and how about this? I am going to start calling it EKCS for short. Did EKCS, did they operate in Pike County? Yep. Did they operate in any other county? At one time, Floyd County, Knott County, and Letcher County. There is another one, but I can't remember which one it was. Leslie County. There is another one, but I can't remember. Harlan? Not at that time, no. Just so that I am clear, at that time, what time period are you talking about when EKCS operated in those counties that you just named? I don't really know. I can guess. Well, do your best to identify the time period. Okay, probably in the 90s or 95. Okay, I saw that in April 1998. The registered agent for EKCS was changed from Stanley Wilkins to you. Do you recall that? I don't recall that. So you don't recall why you would have been identified as a registered agent at that time period? Not at that time, no. Did you start to take a more active role in the company in the 90s? No, I covered some of the counties, I think, in the 90s. Okay. Explain to me what you mean by that. Okay. I would go to Floyd County, Knott County, Letcher County, and I would hook them up on home incarceration if the judge had anyone to go on home incarceration. Okay. How would you have been notified that the judge had folks to go on home incarceration? I would just go to court that day. Were there other home incarceration companies operating in those counties during that time period? No, we were the first ones to start it. And here is another thing I didn't say. Let me finish my question before you start answering, and you might know exactly what I'm about to say and so forth. So purposes of the record, that is helpful. So I think I heard you say that you, EKCS, was the first home incarceration company in those counties, and at least through the 1990s, there were no competitor home incarceration companies. Is that correct? Yes. So you were also saying that you would go to court in a number of counties and sit in, I guess, during the hearings and see if folks needed to be on home incarceration and sign them up. Is that how it worked? Yep. Okay. Did you have other folks who were sort of assigned to particular counties to do that during that time period? Nope. Mr. Jones, make sure that you let her finish the question, even though you know what she is going to say. Okay. I know that is hard. Mr. Jones, she might sneak in a different word that you weren't expecting. Okay, sorry. What would happen if no one showed up on a certain and the judge wanted to put someone on home incarceration? I don't know what he did. Okay, I think you said that one of the counties that you worked in was Letcher County during that time period. Yes. Do you remember who the judge was at that point? Collins. So this goes all the way back to Larry Collins. Did you know Judge Collins personally? Nope. Did you get to know Judge Collins personally during the course of working with EKCS? What do you mean by personally? Well, did you ever send him Christmas presents or happen to see him socially? Did you have his phone number? Nope. At some point, you became president of EKCS. Yes. Do you remember when that was? Nope. Would it have been after your husband passed away or before? It was before. And why was it that you became president? My husband had leukemia. So at the time you became president, were there any other employees working with EKCS? Mickey Stines. Okay. I think that was it. Ms. Stumbo, Ned's wife. I'm sorry. What was the last name? Stines. Stines. Ms. Stumbo. Thank you. And when you hired Mickey Stines, what was his job title and duties? He was a representative for home incarceration for EKCS Inc. Okay. What would he do as a representative? He worked in Letcher County, and when the judge had someone to go on home incarceration, he hooked them up on home incarceration. Okay. I believe you said that Mr. Stines worked for EKCS for around 20 years. Uh-huh. Mr. Jones, say yes or no. Yes. And I think that he quit working for EKCS around 2020, 2021. Is that correct? 2019. 19. Okay. So does that mean he started working for EKCS around 1999? To the best of your recollection? To the best of my recollection, yes. Okay. So I am curious, I guess. I will start here. How many counties was EKCS performing home incarceration services for in 1999? Or the late 90s more generally? I think at that time it was just Letcher County. Okay. So do you recall why that you quit performing home incarceration services in Leslie, Knott, and Floyd counties? Lon May started doing home incarceration. Okay. And he is from Floyd County. So if I was a circuit judge in Floyd County, do I get to pick if I'm putting my person on home incarceration with EKCS or Lon May's company? Or how does that work? I guess they choose. The judges get to choose? Uh-huh. Okay. Yes or no? I'm sorry. Yes or no? I think that was a yes, correct? Yes. I think that's her attorney saying that to her. Okay. And what about Pike County? What about it? I guess at some point, were you still providing home incarceration services in the late 1990s? Yes. And at some point, you stopped performing those services in Pike County, correct? Yes. And why did you stop working in Pike County? Politics. There's a lot of good information in this that we're going to hear, okay? Explain that to me about that. After my husband passed away, he went with another company. The judge did. The judge was that other company. I'm thinking it was Task Incorporated. T-A-S-K Incorporated, I think. Now, do you know who owns Task? Brian Daniels. Okay. Was there ever any written I think it's supposed to be contracts or agreements with any of these judges related to performing home incarceration services? No. Any other incentives that EKCS would have given to a circuit judge to implore them to choose your services? No. Are you aware of any other companies having ever done that? No. Okay. By the late 1990s, I think you said, to the best of your recollection, your company was only performing services in Letcher County, correct? Yes. Okay. So is Letcher County a less political place than some of these other counties that you referenced? I think that we were the only home incarceration program there. You have never been aware of any other alternatives to EKCS for home incarceration in Letcher County? Nope. So after you became president, were there any other employees of EKCS aside from Mickey Stines? Nope. Okay. And at the time that you hired Mickey Stines, did he hold any kind of elected offices at that time? Nope. Did he have any other employment aside from working for EKCS? He worked for the jail. Okay. Do you know what his position was at the jail? No. Okay. How did you come to meet him and hire him? Through Judge Woods. Okay. I'm not familiar with Judge Woods. Was he a judge in Letcher County? He was. He has passed away. Okay. Do you recall how you met Judge Woods? Yes. I was doing the hookups in Letcher County at that time, and he recommended Mickey Stines to you? Yes. Do you recall anything about what he told you about Mr. Stines when he made that recommendation to you? Nope. And I think that you said that he worked at the jail. Was he, I guess he was not the elected jailer, but maybe a deputy jailer? Right. Okay. Did you provide Mr. Stines at that time with any kind of training on how to perform these home incarceration services? Yes. Okay. What do you recall of that training? I trained him myself. So explain to me what that training would have entailed. Okay, he came to our office and I explained the program to him, gave him a list of what his duties were, told him about the contract that the defendant had to sign. He had to take an application, and he had to have a court order stating that we were to go on home incarceration. And once he got the information, he was to call me, at that time, we didn't have the cell phones, call me and give me the information. I would put it into the computer, and then the transmitter would be activated. And at that time, we didn't have GPS. It was just a monitor that hooked in line with their telephone, and it would let me know if they got out of range. I didn't know where they were going. I just knew they were out of range. Then I showed him how to put the transmitter on their ankle and how to do it. Okay. And when you say hook them into the computer and you referenced knowing when they were out of range, is that information that would come to you through this computer system? Yes. So would you have to then tell Mickey Stines, hey, so-and-so is out of range. You need to check on this person. Yes. Okay. So Mickey Stines would only have that information if it came through you first. Yes. I wonder how many times that happened. Okay. Do you recall what the software or program was that you used at that time? That is fine. At what point did Mickey Stines stop being an employee of EKCS? December of 2018. So he won the election for sheriff in November of 2018. Okay, and why did he stop being employed with EKCS? He ran for sheriff. I guess I want to clarify one thing. I thought I understood from your discovery responses that Mr. Stines was not an employee, but an independent contractor. I told you guys. Yes, I knew it. So, was he ever an employee? No. That is usually written in to every independent contracting contract. That nothing, it usually, every time I've seen it, it usually says that nothing shall be interpreted or considered in any way, shape, or form to be an employer and an employee relationship. An independent contractor, that's a completely different type of employment. Okay, so he was always an independent contractor. He was never a W-2 employee. Yes. So in 1999 or thereabouts, as I understand it, Mickey Stines was the only independent contractor for EKCS. At some point, you hired more independent contractors. Is that correct? Yes. It looks like at some point you started providing home incarceration in Harlan County. Yes. How did that relationship with Harlan County get established? I can't think of his last name. There was a guy named Jack Minyard. That is his name. Jack Minyard, who used to work for my husband. And he did the home incarceration in Harlan County. He was an acquaintance. He worked in the same company as my husband. That company being EKCS. No, he worked in another company. What was the other company? My husband worked for Big Sandy Area Development. When you say your husband, are you talking about Joe Stockham? Yes. Okay. What did he do with Big Sandy Area Development? I don't know. How can you be married to two men, two different men, and not have any idea about what they do, their business? That is so strange to me, because she said that twice over both of her husbands. Do you know his job title? Employment specialist. Maybe. I mean, are you kidding me? Okay. Has Mr. Stockham ever had any kind of responsibilities or role in running EKCS? Yes. Okay. So what is his role? Or when did he start having an active role in EKCS? I don't know the exact year, but he would take equipment to someone if they needed. And he helped in the office if I needed things printed, that type of thing. So I thought you said earlier that you all got married in 2007. Yes. Did he start working with EKCS prior to 2007? No. Jack Minyard was after the 99. He was after that. He was in 2000 something. I'm sorry. That's okay. I'm just trying to clarify. So as I understood you to say, your husband, Joe Stockham, knew Jack Minyard through the Big Sandy Area Development District, but that was after 99, way after. Right. At that time, we weren't in Harlan County when we were in Letcher County, okay? That is what I'm trying to understand. You were in Letcher County around the year 2000, and then sometime thereafter, you started working in Harlan County. Harlan County was probably the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. Sorry about that. That's okay. So how did you establish that relationship, providing home incarceration services in Harlan County? I was just looking for someone, and my husband said, I know someone who lives in Harlan, and he worked with my husband. So Mr. Minyard helped you establish that relationship? Yes. Okay. Do you know anything more about how he went about? Nope. Okay. I also see based on your discovery responses that you guys were also working or have worked in the last 10 years in Pike County. Not in the last 10 years. Okay. I have got a name, James Butler here. Alan, get her. He was just hired recently this year. So what does he do in Pike County, or does he do work for you in Pike County? Yes, he does. Is that work home incarceration electronic monitoring? Yes. Is EKCS providing home incarceration services to folks in Pike County? Yes. Okay. How did that relationship get reestablished? I needed someone in Pike County, and the lady that hired Joe Stockham, my husband, it is her husband. Okay, so it sounds like maybe the politics have changed in Pike County, and Brian Daniels doesn't control all of Pike County anymore. He is still in Pike County. Okay, so how did you guys reintegrate back into Pike County? I went and met with some of the judges and told them that I had a home incarceration program and it was a lot cheaper than what Brian Daniels was charging. Do you know what Brian Daniels was charging? Now, this is hearsay. That is fine. $500 for hookup and $500 a month. Man. And so, which judges did you speak to? Judge Hall, and he also called Judge May. Okay, did you have a conversation directly with Judge May? No. After having the conversation with Judge Hall, you started getting folks referred to EKCS for home incarceration? A few. Do you know do you know much about how that referral process works? Did they call you up and tell you we have someone here that we want to? No, I would go to court every Thursday, Miss Stumbo. When they did the guilty pleas. No, I would go to court every Thursday. So is Ned's wife jumping in here just clarifying her statement when they did the guilty pleas? Because that's not a question. That's odd. Okay, so does Joe Stockham, does he hold any kind of formal role or like job title within EKCS? No. Let me finish. I know it's hard. Sorry. And all of the individuals that we just spoke to, they are all independent contractors also that we just spoke to. When did you speak to them? Man. Yes. Does EKCS have any kind of general commercial liability insurance? No. Has EKCS ever had a TGL policy to your knowledge? Explain that. Or just any kind of insurance policy? No. I mean, how could you not have like some kind of E&O insurance? A lot of people like that do independent work, they have to have errors and omissions insurance. Now, I don't know about this. Doesn't seem like it's any kind of regulated industry. So there's a whole lot of room. It appears there would be it's a cash business. It's a full cash business. So there's all kinds of room for waste, fraud, and abuse, in my opinion. But does EKCS own any real property? No. What is the office? Or where is your office now? In South Shore. Okay. Do you run it out of your home? I have an office that is not attached to my home. Okay, but I guess it is on the same parcel of property as your home. Yes. I saw in more recent filing with the Secretary of State that you are listed as president, secretary, treasurer, and vice president. Is that still true? Yes. Was that also true in 2022 and 2023? Yes. Mr. Jones, do you need to take a break and walk around? No, I'm okay. If you do, just let us know. Okay. What kind of qualifications did EKCS have for people they hired independent contractors to perform these home incarceration services? What kind of qualifications did they need to be hired? Explain. If you are hiring someone, do they have to have a certain level of education? Do they have to pass a background check? Anything like that? No. Background checks, I usually go by what the judges recommend. Okay. Who the judges recommend? Okay. I thought I heard you say earlier that no judges recommended James Butler. Is that correct? No. And no judges recommended Jack Minyard. Right. Well, what about Matt Cope? Is that another person who worked as an independent contractor? When? Let me think of his name again. Jack Minyard. I have a hard time thinking of his name. When Jack Minyard decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, he recommended Matt Cope. Okay, so Jack Minyard didn't work for you all that long. No. Okay. Are there any competing companies providing home incarceration services over in Harlan County? I don't know. So I guess James Butler was referred to you through a mutual friend or acquaintance, correct? Yes. Jack Minyard was referred to you through a mutual friend or acquaintance, correct? Yes. Matt Cope was referred to you by Jack Minyard? Yes. And then I've got some names of folks who worked for you in Letcher County. I think you said that Mickey Stines was recommended by Judge Woods. Yes. And Ben Fields, he was recommended to you by Mickey Stines, correct? Yes. And Elena Hensley, she was recommended to you by Judge Mullins. She works in the jail. She's worked in the jail for a long time. And she worked with Angie, Ben's wife, and Ben. Yes. And I also have a name, Marty Holbrook. Who is that? He worked after Alana quit. Okay, so Alana is no longer working for EKCS? No. How long did she work for you all? Maybe 8 months. Okay, why did she quit? She did not want her checks made out to Elena Hensley, LLC. And I said it has to be made out that way. And she said, well, I cannot work for you if you don't make it out to Elena Hensley. And I said, well, I don't guess you'll be working for me. Did Elena Hensley register an LLC? Yes. Did you ask her to do that before she could work for you? Yes. Have you ever required that of any independent contractors? Yes. Guess why? I ain't going to say nothing. I'm going to see if it tells us in here. Let me finish. I know it's frustrating. So what about Ben Fields? Did he have to have a Ben Fields LLC? He did not. I don't think. You know why people want to create an LLC? For reasons such as this. If you get sued, it's a limited liability company. That's what LLC stands for. Okay, did Mickey Stines have a Mickey Stines LLC? No. Man, I bet she wishes she'd have made them started doing that before. So did Marty Holbrook have Marty Holbrook LLC? Yes. Why did you require them to do that? I talked to my CPA and he said that it would be best to do that. Okay. Do you know when you started having that requirement for independent contractors? After Ben's problem. There you go. Explains it. By Ben's problems, do you mean the problems that are at issue in this lawsuit? Uh-huh. Okay. Well, how did you get a hold of Marty Holbrook's name? His wife worked at the jail. What was her name? You asked me too quick. Melody Coots. I went to school with Melody. Wow. Didn't expect to see her name in here. Okay. How did you know Melody Coots? I met her at the jail. And that is the Letcher County Jail? Yes. Okay. So it sounds like from all of the folks that you have hired, it is really only Mickey Stines, as I understood your testimony. Mickey Stines and Alana Hensley, who were referred to you by a judge. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Have you ever advertised for one of these contractor positions? No. You got to know somebody around here. Okay. Do these independent contractors, do they sign any kind of contract agreement with EKCS to become a supervisor, home incarceration officer? Yes. I'm not sure that we have seen those. Do you know if Ben Field signed one of those? No, he didn't. And what about Mickey Stines? Did he ever sign one? No. Why not? I just didn't do that. They got a 1099 at that time. My CPA said as long as they are paying their own taxes, a 1099 is the same. Is there any kind of document that exists that would have put Ben Fields on notice of what his duties and responsibilities were as an independent contractor for EKCS? No. So how would he have come understand what his duties were and what his responsibilities were as an EKCS independent contractor? Because Mickey Stines trained him. Man. Sheesh. And Mickey Stines was trained so well. Sheesh. I'm telling you, Cheryl Klein. Let me stop for a minute. I missed my calling. I should have gone into the criminal investigation, criminal law field. Well, I'm just sitting here like, every time I read these things, it's like, man, I would have loved to have had a job like that. I mean, at the time, not now. Oh, the Lord protects us. Thank God for unanswered prayers, y'all. Oh. Yeah, Reagan Green. ARC sure filled out LLC paperwork. All right, you ain't missed much, Miss Cheryl. You ain't missed much. We ain't got to anything real juicy yet. Okay, so what did you? We will get to some of that later. I want to kind of keep it more general now. So I guess aside from Mr. Fields, who is trained by Mickey Stines? Who trained Mr. Butler? Who worked over in Pike County? I did. And what about the folks who worked in recent years for EKCS in Harlan County? Who trained them? Jack Minyard. And who trained Jack Minyard? I did. Okay. What about Alana Hensley and Marty Holbrook? Who trained them? I did. You didn't have Mickey Stines train Miss Hensley or Mr. Holbrook? No. Okay, but you did have Mickey Stines train Ben Fields, correct? Yes. So I guess that leads us to the training that you provided these independent contractors. What kind of training did they get as far as sort of record keeping and documenting their work with these persons on home incarceration? The only thing they did was do the application, explain the rules to them and what their duties were. And who dictates what those rules are? I do, not the court system. I have to go by what the court order says. If someone goes on home incarceration and they say they can only go to the doctor and to court or to see their attorney, whatever is on that court order, that is what they get to do. Okay. Is that court order kept as part of the EKCS's file? Yes. And you get a copy of that court order from, if it was Letcher County, the independent contractor. Usually they kept the court order. Let me finish. You would get a copy of that from the independent contractor working in Letcher County. They kept it. So where did the independent contractors working for EKCS, where did they keep their files? I don't know. So how do you know they were even keeping them? We saw in the public records that we got for Ben's case, he would just write names on a piece of paper. You know, they didn't have any real system, or they had their own kind of system. But like Ben's wife was collecting, it looked to me like most of the receipts that were written to these people on home incarceration came from his wife. At least that's what it looked like to me. You didn't give them any sort of direction on or training on how or where to keep files on these home incarcerations. They kept the files until they went off. And whenever they got a stack, I don't know what they did with them, got rid of them or whatever. I saw also there was a form, an EKCS form, that has to do with having completed home incarcerations. Yes. Is that something that EKCS kept as part of the file? Yes. Okay. And where was that completion form kept? The representatives kept them. So they never gave them, oh no, I'm sorry. The completion forms, they filled them out and they took them to the clerk's office. Did you get a copy of that also? Nope. Did EKCS provide any training to these independent contractors on smexual harassment or smexual assault? Nope. Any more sort of generalized training about how to properly interact with or behave towards these folks on home incarceration? Nope. Any policies about supervising family members? Nope. Were you aware of the fact that any of these independent contractors were supervising family members? Nope. What about any policies regarding supervising a close family friend? Nope. What about any kind of policy regarding supervising someone with whom your independent contractor was having a romantic relationship? Nope. As far as people who were on home incarceration, I guess, just within the last 10-year period, we will say, as I understand it, within the last 10 years, EKCS has only worked in Letcher, Pike, and Harlan counties. Correct. The most corrupt of them all. The most improper and probably unprofessional, I don't know, counties. Like, they could get by with all of this kind of lax crap here because who was looking, who was going to oversee it, who was going to, if if they were in a more populated area, if they were in a more professional area, maybe, I don't know, group of people, I don't know. I just think, man, how can you have a system like this for 25 years or longer, 35 years, man, and not know that you need these kinds of things to protect yourself? Like, you'd think that she would have, her CPA or whoever, you got this much money, somebody didn't tell you to protect your business and to protect yourself? Incompetence at its best, y'all. Rich people ain't got a whole lot of common sense, it seems like. Anyway, so for those 3 counties and the people that EKCS has supervised, have those been more often female home incarceration participants or male? I wanted to know the answer to this question too. And she says male. Huh. More often male. Okay. Does that vary by county? For example, are there more females on home incarceration in Letcher County versus Harlan? Or is it fairly equal across the board to the best of your knowledge? Fairly equal. Okay. And you said more male than female. How many more male? I know that I'm asking for broad numbers, but is it, 3/4 male and 1/4 female, or 60-40? Your best guess. When we first started, it was about all males. I would say 85% is males. Even to this day? Yes, Mr. Shaw. Would this be a good time to take a quick break? Sure. Okay, and then they go to break. We're back on the record, and as Mr. Van Hoos told you, you were still under oath. Okay. Was there any... Oh, I got a question for you about uniforms. Was there any kind of EKCS uniform that these independent contractors would wear? Nope. Were you aware that oftentimes EKCS independent contractors were performing services wearing another work uniform? A deputy sheriff's uniform, for example? No. Really? Well, you hired deputies. You don't think that they would have been wearing their uniform? Really? Wow. Object to form. Did EKCS ever give these independent contractors any sort of direct about what they should or should not wear? Nope. What about vehicles? Was there any rules or requirements about vehicles they should or shouldn't utilize while performing these home incarceration services for EKCS? Nope. Mr. Jones, you have to wait until she gets to the end. I thought she was. Were they given any mileage, like compensation for mileage from EKCS? No. How dare you ask that question? Okay. Were all of the folks that EKCS managed on home incarceration, were they always pretrial detainees? I don't know. Had EKCS perform home incarceration services in any states outside of Kentucky? Yes. Okay, explain, please. Years ago, my husband had someone on home incarceration somewhere in Ohio. A singular individual? Yep. Okay. Aside from that individual, though everyone else has been in Kentucky? Yes. Is EKCS a member of any kind of trade association? Nope. Do you guys remember when home incarceration really first started and how expensive it was? Like, you had to be rich to be able to get out on an ankle monitor. I remember back in like the 90s, the late 90s and early 2000s, there wasn't anybody that was poor ever got out that I ever saw. The only people that could afford it were wealthy. Are you aware of any home incarceration ankle monitoring associations? No. Does EKCS have any kind of accreditation? Can't say that word. Or certifications of any kind? Nope. Are you aware of any accreditations or certifications from home incarceration or ankle monitoring services? Nope. Well, how could you even know if the things even worked or not? You know? I mean, for all we know, could have been a big old scam. I mean, how would you know? Have you or any of the independent contractors we've talked about today ever attended any conferences or seminars about home incarceration and ankle monitoring? No. Through the course of your work with EKCS, have you ever had any contacts with AOC, that being the Kentucky Administrative Office of the Courts? I haven't. Okay. Do you know if your husband ever did? I don't know. Specifically in Letcher County, aside from the district and circuit court judges, were there any other court employees of the courthouse that you had any contact with about home incarceration and ankle monitoring? Nope. I think most recently, you have been using a program called Attenti. Does that ring a bell? It is Allied now. Okay, Allied bought out Attenti. Okay. When did that happen to your knowledge? Within the last year or so. Okay, so in 2021 and 22, the program that you were using was called Attenti? I am not sure. Let me see if I can answer this question. So the computer software that you use, do you purchase in the ankle monitoring as one sort of complete package? In other words, do the ankle monitors work with a specific program? Yes. So the time period that I'm interested in, 2020 to 22, during that time period, I guess to the best of your recollection, what software and ankle monitoring equipment were you using? GPS. And so for that software and equipment, do you pay like a monthly fee? Or is it one-time upfront fee? How do the expenses work on that software and equipment? They charge so much a day. You have to lease the equipment, and they provide the program. Okay, when you initiated that relationship with the company, do they train you on the computer program and the equipment? Uh-huh. And would that be in-person training or online training? Online. Did you require your independent contractors to also watch that online training? No. Man, we're in the wrong business, Jess. We're in the wrong business, Jessica. We're going to start a company, a house arrest program. Easy money, y'all. Easy money. So you would have been the only person to ever watch the training from the software and equipment company, correct? Yes. I guess as you go, if you need more ankle monitors, because there is more folks being put on home incarceration, do you just order additional ankle monitors from the company? Yes. Or lease them, I guess. Yes. Okay. And then if you have got more than you need, or maybe if one is broken, is it your practice to mail those back to the company? Yes. How did you keep track on how many ankle monitors were in Letcher County, for example? Are you talking about extra ones? Well, I was just wondering, how did you know? How did you keep track of how many ankle monitors were being used in Letcher County, for example, in 22, to be specific? On the program, you can hit It will tell you who all is on home incarceration and what GPS system, what number, serial number. So each ankle monitor has its own serial number. Yes. Do you manually input that serial number into the system? Yes. Can those serial numbers be changed at all? Could someone who had that physical ankle monitor do something to tinker with the serial number, or is it that static and permanent? I don't really know on that. Okay. So what do you do with an ankle monitor that's not working? If it is broken somehow, what would you do? I'd send it back for repair. Do any of the independent contractors who work for EKCS have access to that software? No. So you rely on those independent contractors to provide you with the information that you need to plug into the software. Is that correct? Yes. Probably because if she shared that with any of the people, the independent contractors, then they could just start their own company and become competition. I've worked for businesses before where they were very, very secretive of all of their other departments. Very secretive. They did not want anybody from this area talking to anybody in that area, because they didn't want anybody to copy, or at least it looked to me. I mean, I don't know, but it looked to me like they didn't want anybody being able to copy the model, the business model that they had put together. And kind of what this reminds me of, if she was to share that program and how it all worked with the employees, it was so simple, such an easy gig. Man, lucrative business, man. And the more people you put on house arrest, the more money you're gonna make. So you rely on those independent contractors to provide you with the information that you need to plug into the software. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Identify for me what all information you need to be able to set somebody up in the home incarceration software. Okay, normally the judge will give the court order, and sometimes he will just say, hook so-and-so up. Fill out an application, and on this application, the first thing that it has on there is the serial number of the computer, how many days they are on, name, address, phone numbers, next of kin, their charges, their case number, if they have any medical issues. Okay, that is basically it. So the information that you need to set someone up in these systems comes from that application? Yes. I guess also the court order? Right. Okay. How do independent contractors get paid? And I will start here, at least from 2020 through 22. Did you pay all of your independent contractors the same way, using the same formula? Yes. What was that formula breakdown, or how did they get paid? Okay, $25 for each hookup that they hooked up initially. Okay. And then $3 per day for every day that they were on. They got paid once a month. Okay. Do those independent contractors submit invoices to you for payment? No. Okay. How did the money go from these individuals on home incarceration to EKCS? The representative would collect the money and meet them once a week to pay for the week in advance. He would make the deposit weekly into a bank account. I guess also give you some sort of accounting of who gave what account of money. He had sent the receipts to me weekly. When you say he, are you referring to Ben Fields specifically? Yes. Now, in Mickey's deposition, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Mickey said when he started this working for this company, they didn't have a bank account. So I'm anxious to see how that plays out here. And what do these receipts look like? Just a regular receipt. Were they like computer generated or were they handwritten? Book, receipt book. Those are the receipts. Like I said, I saw a whole bunch in the discovery of Angie, Ben's wife. She signed a lot of those receipts. And apparently they just went into the jail to pay their weekly fee. And they paid it at the Letcher County jail. So that makes me wonder, why weren't all of these entities named in this lawsuit? I'm no lawyer, so maybe a very, very easy explanation that I just don't, know. What would happen if someone who was on home incarceration hadn't paid? We usually work with them if they have a problem and they can make it up the next week. We will let them wait until the next week, but normally we never had that problem. People always paid? They always paid. Huh. Were independent contractors, were they given EKCS credit cards to use? No. Do those independent contractors have the authority to deposit money into EKCS's bank account? Yes. Okay. Did you maintain a separate bank account for EKCS from your personal finances? Yes. Okay. What bank did EKCS bank with? Are you talking about in Letcher County? Sure. Yeah. Community Trust. That's the bank right directly across the street from the courthouse. Okay. Did you use different banks in other counties? In South Shore, I use City National for the company. Okay. What about in Pike and Harlan counties? Same thing. Community Trust? Uh-huh. Okay. I think I asked you previous. I think you said 85%. And I realized that was just your best guess. We're male on the home incarceration and 15-ish% female. You produced some records previously, showed around 220 women on home incarceration in Letcher County between 2019 and 22. So I was just wondering. I didn't know it was. Does it say there was another 18 men on home incarceration during that time period? I don't understand your question. First off, you were saying there were 200 on. Yeah, you responded to a subpoena. We subpoenaed some records from you a couple of years ago, and you produced a lot. And I will show you some of them. Attenti records. I'm surprised that there were that many. Okay. Mr. Jones, I don't think that I have seen any of that. Ms. Baxter, we subpoenaed that way before she became a party to this action. I produced those too. Were you the one that I talked to when you called? Were you the one I talked to when you called? Someone from your office called me. I think you called maybe about that subpoena. Mr. Jones, do you have them? I don't know if I've got them. I know that I don't have them. This is off the record. An off the record discussion was held. Ms. Baxter, back on the record. I'm having kind of a problem about her being questioned about documents that have never been provided to me and that she doesn't remember. Well, if you want to go back off the record, I can email them to you guys. That would be good. Okay. So then they have another off the record discussion. Back on the record. Okay. I think that you answered this question previously, but has EKCS ever had any kind of written agreements with the Letcher Circuit Court, Letcher County Jail, Letcher County Judge Executive's Office? Nope. Have you ever met the circuit judge in Letcher County, Judge Kraft? Yes. When did you first meet him? I would say, I'm guessing, in the 90s. Was he judge at that time? Nope. How did you come to meet him? Just met him in the judge's office, in the district judge's office. He was an attorney at that time. Okay, I guess when you met him, were there in your capacity as EKCS president, I guess? Employee? Yep. Have you ever had any conversations with Judge Kraft about your work with EKCS and putting folks on home incarceration? Nope. What about Judge Mullins? When did you first come to meet Judge Mullins? I don't recall. All right. Well, what do you recall? What do you recall about when you first met Judge Mullins? I don't even remember when I first met him. Have you had any conversations with Judge Mullins about Eastern Kentucky, EKCS, and your work with home incarceration? Nope. Have you had any conversations with Judge Mullins about Ben Fields? Nope. What about any conversations with Judge Mullins about Mickey Stines? Nope. What about conversations with Judge Mullins about any of my clients, either Sabrina Adkins or Jennifer Hill? Nope. What about Judge Kraft? Have you had any conversations with Judge Kraft about... Nope. Let me finish my question. About Sabrina Adkins or Jennifer Hill? Nope. What about conversation with Judge Kraft about Ben Fields? Any other courthouse employees from Letcher who you have had conversations with about my clients and Ben Fields and the issues involved in this lawsuit? Nope. Did you know the sheriff in Letcher prior to Mickey Stines being elected to that position? Nope. When Mickey Stines was working as an independent contractor for EKCS, did you ever receive any complaints about him? Nope. No complaints, people on home incarceration? Nope. What about Ben Fields? Did you ever, am I correct that Mickey Stines recommended Ben Fields to you? Yes. Is it also true that Mickey Stines, before being elected sheriff, also served as the bailiff for district court? Yes. Would you say that was helpful to EKCS to have the district court bailiff also working as a home incarceration officer? I don't really know. What did Mickey Stines tell you about Ben Fields when he suggested you to hire him? He said he was a very outstanding guy. Shucks, man, he's a good dude. He's reliable and dependable. He had worked with him in the Letcher County Jail. Never had any complaints on him or nothing. Did you talk to the jailer, Letcher County jailer, about whether there had been any complaints on Ben Fields? Well, no. So she just took his word for it. Did you ever receive any complaints about Ben Fields when he worked for EKCS? Never. No persons on home incarceration ever complained to you about Ben Fields. No. Did they even have an avenue to complain to her? The people that were being put on home incarceration didn't answer to her. I'm sure they didn't give them her phone number. Like, how were they supposed to complain to anybody? Who were they supposed to complain to? No. All right. I want to go through sort of the process of enrolling, how someone gets enrolled in home incarceration, and sort of what that process looks like from start to finish. I know you talked a little about that, but I want to kind of parcel that out a little bit. And I know one thing that you have referenced is a contract. Mr. Shaw, I'm going to object to the extent that you are going to give any testimony about how the court determines that someone qualifies or doesn't qualify for home incarceration. I don't mind for her answering after, once the judge decides that they can be in home incarceration, how she gets a referral and things like that. But I don't think she's qualified to, well, to the extent that she knows. I'm going to ask her some. Okay, do you recognize this document that I have just handed you? Yes, what is this? This is a contract that each defendant signs when he goes on home incarceration. Okay, has this contract changed in format over time? The only thing that has changed would probably be how many years that we have been in business. All right, okay. And when the fees increased due to GPS. So this copy is unsigned. Do you know time period that this contract would have been utilized by EKCS? No, it is when we started the GPS system. I thought that. When did you start the GPS system? I don't recall. I'm going to ask you a few questions about it. I guess we will start here. Is this a contract that would be signed by the person who is being put on home incarceration? Yes. Okay, on the second page, it says supervisor. Would that be signed by you or by the independent contractor working on EKCS's behalf? That would be the contractor. And will you obtain a copy of this contract for your files in Greenup County? Usually the contractor kept them, but they sent me a copy. When you say usually they kept them. Okay. What would be the circumstance when they would mail you a copy versus not mail you a copy? If I had a problem with one of them not paying or violating. Okay. We will talk some more about that in a minute. Okay. I'm reading from the top first sentence. Says, I, the undersigned defendant, have received a copy of the court order placing me on home incarceration. So who would they get a copy of this court order placing them on home incarceration from? The jail usually had it, and they got it from there. I don't know if the judge gave them a copy or not. Okay. And then I guess, would it be the jailer, the judge, or the defendant who would give EKCS a copy? I don't know. But usually anytime we had one to go on home incarceration, they had the court order. Okay. Then it says, I wish to participate in the in-home detention program. Do you see that in bold? Where is it? Third line down at the top. Okay. So I am just wondering, what is the in-home detention program? Whose program is that? House arrest. So is that a program controlled by EKCS or by somebody else? By Eastern Kentucky Corrections. Okay, we do the monitoring. All right, and then it says, I agree to abide by the following rules and conditions set forth by EKCS. Are there any rules that are governed the in-home detention program beyond the rules and conditions established by EKCS? Only by what the court order would say might be different. So EKCS looks to what the court has ordered to set the parameters for what the rules and conditions for EKCS's in-home detention program. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Then it goes on to say, I am looking under number 1 rather. Talks about curfew restrictions. So what are curfew restrictions? Some offenders are allowed to work. That would be on the court order. And they have to abide by what their work hours are. Okay, so that would be a term set by the court. Yes. Then would you take that information and plug it into your home incarceration software? Yes. Okay. Is work release the most common kind of curfew restriction, or what other kind of restrictions in your experience does the court set? Nowadays, it is methadone clinics, drug testing, that type of thing. So any of those type of restrictions would get plugged into your system, your home incarceration software system, correct? Yes. Under number 2, it says, I agree to remain at my primary residence at all times unless pre-authorized by the court order. Are the pre-authorized referenced there? Are those the curfew restrictions? Yes. That is kind of talking about the same thing there, correct? Okay. Am I reading now from the last sentence? Or I am reading from the last sentence of number 2. I must also provide documentation from my healthcare provider stating the nature of my medical emergency. I guess that is in a situation where someone is having some kind of medical emergency. Is that correct? I'm sorry. What did you say? I'm just trying to figure out this reference to providing documentation from a healthcare provider. In what circumstances is that required? This is really on the old system when we didn't have the GPS. They don't have to do that now because with the GPS, I know what time they get there and what time they left and where they are going. Okay, I'm skipping down to number 4. My curfew restrictions will be monitored 24 hours per day. Is that a true statement? Yes. And who's doing that monitoring? Is that you? Attenti does the monitoring. If they violate, they will send me a text or an alert. Okay. How often would you get a text or alert in the course of a day generally? In the course of a day, it is according to how many people were on home incarceration. Well, in 2002, say, is that a once a day occurrence or 10 times a day? A lot of times they would just get out. I put a certain range in there, and sometimes they just get out of range, which is not really a violation, and it might show up as a violation. When it comes to a violation, I check and see. If it is not really a violation and they just got out because, with the GPS, it is not completely right on the spot, and they might just be out of range. If they're just out of range for a couple of minutes, the judge doesn't want to hear about that. Oh, so she had complete discretion on what, I don't know if she had discretion, but the way that this sounds is, it's completely up to her whether she reported it or not. So depending on how honest she was, you know what I mean? Man, it doesn't seem like they had anything in place for, any kind of checks and balances. Okay, because they really didn't. They are out of their house, but they are, I don't think that you actually answered my question, though. I'm just curious to how many times a day that you would get an alert, for example, in 2022. I have no idea. Would it be every single day? Sometimes, and sometimes it wouldn't. And then what I think that you were saying there was that it was your practice then to look in the software and see if it was an actual violation or something less than an actual violation. Is that correct? Yes. Is there ever a situation what you would deem to be an actual violation? What would you do? I would first try to get a hold of them. If I couldn't, I'd call Mickey, my representative, and they have to get a warrant for them. They would let the judge know, and the judge decides whether he wants to get a warrant for them. Wait and see if they come back. If there was an emergency, such as a hospital emergency. So in that scenario, I think that you were referencing Mickey Stines. In a scenario where Mickey Stines was the Letcher County representative, after initially trying to get a hold of the person on home incarceration, you'd get a hold of Mickey Stines. Is that correct? Uh-huh. And then Mr. Stines, I guess, would he also be trying to get a hold of the person on home incarceration, or what would he do? Sometimes he'd call the hospital to see if they were in the emergency room. If they weren't in the emergency room and they didn't call or leave a message or tell me they were going somewhere, he would get a warrant. First, he would call the judge, and then he would get a warrant for them for escape. And if you notice in here, she says if they didn't call or leave me a message or tell me that they were going somewhere, he would get a warrant. So somehow the people that on house arrest have her number. Is that right? I mean, how else are they contacting her? Okay, how often would a warrant for escape be sought? It's not very often. Okay, so say in Letcher County in a year. Did it happen once or twice a year? Once or twice a month? Maybe twice a year, maybe. And so in that scenario, is it EKCS that's, would you be the one that is providing records and filing that complaint to seek that escape charge? Or who would be doing that? I would. Okay. I would send them showing where they had left. And also any GPS that I have, I send it to Mickey. And Mickey takes that to the judge. And they decide whether to get a warrant or not. Okay, so I see. Is tampering with the GPS ankle bracelet, is that also a violation, I assume? Yes. And how does someone tamper with the GPS bracelet? Cut it off. Okay. Does that happen very often or ever in your experience? Sometimes, but not very often. Sometimes if they just hit it against something, it will come through as a tamper. And then I have the representative check it. Okay, would the representative, would they call it that individual on the phone? Would they physically go to their home to check on them? Is there any policies or procedures about how they go about checking on the person? They are supposed to come to the jail and have them have it checked, because they both worked at the jail at that time. Okay, I don't know if I'm following you. You are saying the person with the ankle monitor would have to come to the jail? Uh-huh. And when you say because they both worked at the jail at that time, who are you talking about there? Mickey and Ben. Okay, but when you first hired Ben as an EKCS employee, he wasn't working at the jail anymore, was he? Yes, he was. Okay, and then he became a deputy sheriff later. Yes. So what you were telling is your representative would get in touch with the person on home incarceration, and then that person would be told to come to the jail. Why wasn't the jail named in this lawsuit? Why? Yes. Is that how it worked in other counties as well? Yes. Okay. I'm looking now under number 5, second sentence. If I should violate any court order, curfews, violations of home zones, or the receipt of any tampering signal, I further agree that a computer printout of any violations will be provided to the courts and may be used as evidence against me in a court of law. My question to you is, were computer printouts of any violations always provided to the court? Yes, if they violated. So any violations, your testimony is any violations were always provided to the court. I reported them to my representative, and they were supposed to do that. Okay. I thought I heard you say earlier that you would be the one to swear out the affidavit or file the complaint yourself for escape. I thought so too. I was like, maybe I'm thinking, well, maybe I misread that. But that's what I thought she said too. I don't file it. I send it to them, and they are the ones that gets the warrant for it. Okay. That is a little different from what you testified earlier. So I'm glad that you clarified that. So would you get any confirmation back from your representative that they actually provided that computer printout to the court? No. But that representative would have to have gotten that computer printout from you, correct? Right? So how would you send that computer printout to your representative? I texted it to him. You texted a computer printout? Uh-huh. Was it a screenshot? Yeah. I took a picture and sent it. Okay. And so they were supposed to use that screenshot and provide that to the court. Yes. Do you know if that happened in every instance? Or is there any way that you could confirm whether or not that ever occurred? I can't confirm. But when they got a warrant and they went off house arrest, I was notified by the representative and I deactivated them from the system. So you got a copy of the warrant? No, they just usually just got it. And the representative would just let you know, oh, this person can be deactivated. Yes. Well, it says here that all equipment must be returned to Eastern Kentucky Correctional Services. Was that equipment actually returned to you up in Greenup or just returned to the representative? The representative. In Letcher County, okay, I'm looking at number 12 on the second page. It references about charging units. Would failure to charge a unit, in what circumstance would that result in a violation or not? It would if they did not charge and they let the battery go dead. In a situation where a person on home incarceration lets the battery go dead, that would result in a violation and felony escape charge? Yes. I'm looking at number 14. I understand that I must at all times have access to a phone or some type, and to promptly answer when of a representative, Eastern Kentucky Correctional Services calls. Were there any issues with folks on home incarceration having access to phones? Nope. Ms. Baxter. Mark that as Exhibit 1. I want to look at this first page. Is this an application form? Yes. So this is a thing that a person who wants to be on home incarceration would fill out as an initial step. Yes. Okay. And I'm just wondering, I see a GSP GPS number there at the top. Do you see that? Yes. Is that the serial number for the ankle monitor? Yes. Okay. Then I see regular and then TX number, cellular, TX number, hookup is regular. What does all of that mean? Okay. When I got the GPS, I was still doing the other one too until that we got them all in. What do you mean by the other one too? Okay. When they first had house arrest, there was a monitor about this big that plugged in line with your telephone. That is the one that is regular, that is no GPS. It just shows if you get out of range or come back in range. So I guess in this case, Sabrina Adkins was hooked up on a newer model GPS ankle monitor, correct? She was on twice, I think, yes. Okay. It says sentence, POB. What does that mean? Part of bond. Okay. So the address that gets listed on this application form is her home address where she is supposed to stay unless she has got some sort of authority to go elsewhere from the judge. Yep. And this is from that person's on home incarceration with EKCS would fill out with the independent contractor in the county, correct? Yes. And this would be sent back to you, EKCS's home office. Is that correct? Yes. And kept as part of EKCS's files, correct? Yes. And then the next 2 pages of this document are another copy of that contact. There's a couple of new sections on here, though, and I think it is paragraph 5 and 9 were added. I believe those have to do with sort of your more updated system. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And it looks like this one was signed by Sabrina Atkins and Ben Fields on June 18th, 21, correct? Yep. Okay. Do you want to take a break? No, I just need to refer to him for a second. I have a clean copy of it if you want to use that. You mean not gray? Not gray, clear. You can look at it. I have got them stapled together, so I'm going to keep them as I have got them. I appreciate that. Go ahead and pass it to the court reporter. I want to introduce it as Defenses 1 because you are not going to be able to see it by the time that he copies it. So I would rather have a clean copy of it in there too. Go ahead and mark that as Defendants 1 if you don't mind. I need to take a break because I need to get some water, but I also need to speak to her for a second so that I can understand something. Okay. They took a short break. And then they come back on the record. Do you have any reason to dispute that we are going to use this copy, I guess, because it is the same but a little more clear. Do you have any reason to dispute that this offender application sheet for Sabrina Atkins wasn't filled out, as the same time that she filled out this EKCS contract? You think they were filled out at the same time or were not filled out at the same time? The contract does not match the application, the date. Okay, I don't see date on the application sheet, but maybe I missed it. No, but it is attached to this. Is there a date on the application sheet? Not on the application sheet, there's not. Okay, I guess I don't understand. Do you think that the contract and the application sheet relate to, they don't go together? And why is that? Because this is a GPS unit. And go over to, let me find it here. Go to number 14. No, it's not 14. Let me see if I can find it. This is what you're looking for. I am on the wrong one. Okay, should be the same. Number 5. I understand that it is my responsibility to connect the home monitoring equipment as soon as I arrive. GPS, you don't have to hook it up to the phone line. Okay. And it could have been, I don't know. It is your belief that Sabrina Atkins was on home incarceration with EKCS on more than one occasion? Yes. Why do you believe that to be true? Well, I know it to be true. How do you know? Because she was on the regular system that we had where you had to take the box and plug it in line with your telephone. That is what we had when we first started. Okay. Then she went on to the GPS system. She may have been on more. I don't know. But I can find out. You are just drawing from your memory that she was on both plug-in and the GPS. No, I know she was. Well, how do you know? Because on the printout from Attenti, it says monitor untrusted. When it says monitor untrusted, that means that this monitor was either moved or somebody walked heavily on the floor and shook it. You will not have that on a GPS unit. I don't know what you had. Go on. Go on. All right. Okay. Well, we will look at the Attenti soon. And I would love for you to point that out for me. What I gave you is the same, isn't it? I believe so. She went on June 18th, 2019. And then she went on again August 28th, 2019. This is 21. Are you talking about 2019? Uh-huh. Are you looking at some other records that are, I've got it right there. By right there, so you mean in this exhibit? No, she means that I have it. He has it. We will get to that, I believe. Don't let me forget to get to that. Okay, so going back to a more generalized person, there is these two documents, an application sheet and a contract that they would fill out at the beginning when they are first being put on home incarceration. Yep. Then what step happens next? After they do, the representative sends me the information and I put it in the computer. Then the representative attaches a transmitter to their ankle, explains the rules to them, and they go outside. You push a button, go outside and wait until I get an activation. When I get an activation, I call him back and say they can go home now. When you say go outside, where are they? Are they at their house or at the courthouse? No, they are at the jail, usually when they hook them up. Sometimes they will bring them up to the courtroom after court, and Ben would hook them up, or Mickey would hook them up. When you say explain to them the rules, what would those rules include? Not to tamper with the unit, stay home at all times. They have to call me if they have a doctor's appointment, an attorney's appointment, or they have to call me a couple of days ahead of time so I can get it into the computer. And if they have a medical emergency, they are to call me, and they can't call me when they get to the emergency room. They have someone call me. You said call me several times. Who is me? Me, Eastern Kentucky Correction Services. So it was Ben Fields' job to tell these folks on home incarceration in Letcher County in all of these circumstances you described that they are to call Patty Stockham. And would he give them your phone number? Or how would they get your phone number? Yes, they had my phone number. They had a card. Sometimes he would put it on the application. On their rules when they gave them to them. By their rules, are you referring to that contract? Yes. How often, what do you keep getting? How often up until that point when they have put their ankle monitor on? And where are you going? You're distracting me. Hang on, y'all. He's going to be so upset with you. No, you can't have that. She steals all my Gregory's little guys. He gets really upset. Go on. All right. Are you referring to the contract? Yes. How often up until that point when they have put their ankle monitor on and it has been activated? How often at that point in time would you personally have spoken to one of these persons on home incarceration? Not until they got home. They were instructed to call me once they got home, and then I went over everything else that Mickey or Ben went over that was so they can't say so-and-so didn't tell me that. Okay. So they would be given your phone number. They would go home. They would call you, and you would go over the same rules? Uh-huh. Okay. And those rules are what you previously testified to and what's listed in this contract, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. From there, what was home incarceration told as far as reporting issues or problems as they arised? What were they supposed to do if they had some sort of issue that required them to leave the home? They were to call me, to call Patty, okay, or Eastern Kentucky Corrections. What about if they had a complaint? Ben Fields or whoever the local contractor was, did you have any information about what to do in that scenario? No, but they could tell me. Well, how would they have known that? I would assume if they had a problem, they would let me know when I talked to them. Do you know the name Robbie Cancer? who works for the Letcher County Courthouse? I never heard of him. Okay. So you testified previous about, I want to talk about how you would monitor curfew restrictions and so forth. And I understand if you did that through a Tenty program, correct? Yep. Okay. So I have some Tenty records for Sabrina Atkins, and maybe this will help. There's a lot of violations on her. So do you recognize this document? I'm sorry. Do you recognize this document that I just handed you? Yes. What is this? This is a printout from a Tenty on Sabrina Atkins. Okay. Towards the top, it says offender violation summary. So is this like a specific kind of report that you can generate in the system? Yes. I get a printout every day, and I print it off. If it shows a violation, I mark what that violation was. If she went to the doctor, Ben would call me and says that she has to do this. She has to do that. And I put it on there. I would have had all of those records, but I don't keep them. But she was supposed to call you herself and tell you those things, correct? Well, yes, but Ben would call sometimes too and say that she had an appointment, or the judge gave her permission to do this, or the judge gave her permission to do that. Okay. Do you have any records where he texted that to you? Did he put that on an email? He would call me and tell me. But you and Ben texted a fair bit too, correct? We did. Do you still have your text messages? No. Why not? I got a new phone, and I just don't keep them. When did you get your new phone? I don't remember. I wouldn't have kept them anyway, because I always delete them after so long. But most of our conversations, he would call me. The only time that he really texted me, when he went in the applications and stuff. And he would text you a copy of those. Yep. And he would save copies of those texts on your computer. No, that was just for me to put them in the computer. When you got your new phone, did you switch cell phone providers? No. Did you delete your text messages with Ben Fields after the allegations against him came forward? No. All right. Let's look at this document. So I was looking back. It looks like referenced back to the document marked as defendants number 1. What is it now? The one sitting here, right here with Mr. Van Hoos? Okay. I was noticing on the application sheet, it says 164 Perkins Branch. Do you see that? I see it over here, yes. And then I'm looking at the Tenty form, and it says 413 Kentucky 7. Do you see that? I don't know why that is on there. A lot of times on GPS, when you put that in the computer, it will come up this way. Okay, you're not sure whether that is the same or a different address? I don't. Okay. So I know you said something like every day you would get a computer printout of violations. Is that what you stated earlier? Uh-huh. But this, to me, at least to me, looks to be a summary of all of the violations of Sabrina Atkins during the time period that she was on home incarceration. Is that correct? Yep. And it looks by me read that she was first logged into your system on June 18th, 21. Is that correct? Yes. And by read of this document, to me, it looks like she was only on home incarceration between June 18th, 21 through August 2nd, 21 by EKCS's records. Is that correct? I don't think so. Oh, wait a minute. What did you say the date was? First date that I see on this document is June 18th, 21. And the last date that I see is August 2nd, 21. She was on twice. How do you know that? Hold on a second and I'll tell you. She went on again on 8/28/19. Okay? 2019, that is previous. That is the first time. The dates on this document are 21. Can I see that application? This one? This is 6/18/21. But I have her activated on 8/28. So she must have gone on again on 8/28/20. That is a prior time. The 6/18 was prior? I think your dates are wrong. You think my dates are wrong? That is not Sabrina. Leave him alone. Get over here. Sorry, y'all. You better leave him alone. Now. Sorry. You have got a document there with some handwriting on it that I don't think that I've seen. So I would like to make that an exhibit. I would like to see what is up with the handwriting. Hold on a second. You have some dates on here. Activated 8/28/20, deactivated 8/2/21. May I ask what you are looking at there? I'm trying to figure out when she on again the second time. Okay, you don't get signal in here. Miss Stumbo, Ned's wife. There is some Wi-Fi over there if you want to hook up to Wi-Fi. I don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do that? You don't know how to hook up to Wi-Fi? Whatever. Ms. Shaw, you can step outside here if that'll help. Let's go off the record. And they went on a break. We are back on the record now, and we have a copy of a document that you were looking at, Miss Stockham, with some handwriting at the top right corner. Do you have that copy? I do. Is that your handwriting? It is. Do you recall when you made that notation at the top right corner, offender application for Sabrina Adkins? I put the deactivation on there. I don't know when I did. Ben had called and told me that she went off on 8/2. And I don't know where I got the activation on 6/28/20 without she went on twice. Bella. Okay. Aside from this notation on this document, it says activated 8/28/20. Do you have any other records evidencing that Sabrina Adkins was on home incarceration with EKCS prior to June 18th, 21? Prior to that, no, I don't. I don't know where I got that from. Ms. Baxter. We will mark this as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. Let's go back to these attendee records. I believe you agreed with me previously that at least according to these records, Sabrina Adkins was on home incarceration with EKCS from June 18th to August 2nd, 21, correct? I don't know how to answer. I don't know to answer that correctly or not, because I think she has been on before. Okay, that is correct. At least according to the document. What are you doing? Sheesh. When I stay on here too long, the dog acts exactly like a toddler. She'll get into everything she's not supposed to. All right. At least according to this document, we will go with yes. That should be correct. Yes. And if you look at the very last page, it shows 62 total offender violations. Do you see that? Is that for Sabrina? 62? Wow. I do. Okay. I want to sort of walk through this. I don't want to belabor it, but I just want to sort of understand what these violations were and what you did in response to them. So I am noticing, well, tell me this. Are the violations the things in bold? For example, on the first page, I see unable to connect, motion, no GPS. Yes. battery strap. Are those all violations? Yes. Okay. Would you have been made aware of these violations? Yes. On a daily basis? Yes. Okay. So what would have done, or what did you do, if you can recall, to respond to these violations? Okay. Anything that says GPS unable to connect, that just means, and it might be anywhere in her house that she doesn't get signal, GPS signal. Okay. Okay. Motion, no GPS means she on the move, but we don't have GPS. Battery, she is letting the battery go down, but it is not all of the way. A strap means she has either hit it or cut it, and Ben would have checked on that. Okay, let me start here. So when it says unable to connect, it could mean that she is somewhere in her home and lost connection, but could it also mean that she is across town where she is not supposed to be? If they go out of town or out from the house, usually you will get a GPS before she gets somewhere. Okay. It is not going to be dead to wherever. Okay. So as she is leaving her house, it will send a GPS signal letting you know she is way over here, 5 miles down the road. Yep. Okay. What does motion no GPS mean? She is in movement, but there is no GPS. Does that just mean she is walking around? Yep. Okay, which is different than not being able to connect. Or she could be anywhere where there is not a GPS signal, because you don't get GPS signals all of the time. Okay. How often do you get GPS signals? How often do you get it? Yeah. Well, I guess every time when when you're traveling. I've never had an ankle monitor myself, so I am inexperienced. Bella. Okay, GPS system. If you are not near a tower or something, you don't get signal. Okay, kind of like when you are in the car and you lose your music and you don't have any signal, and then all of a sudden you go a little further and you do. Okay, so when that happens, does it still show movement, I guess? If my ankle monitor is not able to connect with a tower, can you still be made aware whether I am moving or not? So I guess it would be like your cell towers. You know how our how our cell phones connect to cell towers. It's kind of how I'm imagining it in my mind. Say you are going from here to Walmart and you get so far and you don't have signal. Then you go a little further and you do have signal. There will be a little arrow showing that you're going, and then there will be a space where there is no arrow showing. And then they will pick up signal again and it shows. I don't see any maps, at least in this violation summary. But would you have been given these maps with these arrows by the system? When I get a violation, I can just get on there and it will show. That is what I give to the representative when they violate. Okay, and then in those scenarios, the person on home incarceration is supposed to have told you that they are going to Walmart, right? Right. But if they haven't told you that they are going to Walmart, that is when you would connect Ben Fields in this instance? Right. Okay. Just so that I am clear, at least for the violations on this initial page, which ones of these types of violations would you have contacted Ben Fields and or Sabrina Adkins about? None of those, other than to tell her she needs to charge her battery. Well, I thought you said earlier that the strap violation then would have followed that. Yeah, the strap violation. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, he would have checked that. Okay. And he would have had to report back to you. Yes. You would have to be the one to make him aware of the strap violation. No. Right. And you are made aware of that via a tenty, sending you a text or some sort of notice, and you get on the computer and you see strap violation on June 25th at 9 p.m. Is that correct? Yep. And then, I guess, depending on what Ben Fields tells you, dictates whether or not send that computer printout to the court, right? Were there ever situations where you would reach out to the person on home incarceration before speaking to Ben Fields? Yep. And why would you do that? In what scenario would you talk to the person on home incarceration first? Okay, let's say that I showed a person going somewhere that they shouldn't go. I would call them and they would tell me why they are there. And I would call Ben. If he says it is okay and the judge says it was okay, it is okay. And if not, he gets a warrant for him. So what would be the, messages, at least on this offender summary, that would implicate that scenario? For example, motion, no GPS. Would you talk to the person with home incarceration about that? If it was just for a few minutes, no, because it is there in the house. So you look at the timestamp too to figure out how long there has been motion, no GPS. And that dictates whether you are going to reach out to that person or not. On a lot of these, in between the different violations that it shows, starts on Monday at 12 a.m. and ends on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Starts on Wednesday at 5:30. That is when she would go to her husband and take care of him and her child. So you are saying that Sabrina had a husband and child that she cared for? It shows that she was divorced, but she took care, I guess. It was her ex-husband. I don't know. But she was going to take care of a man, and he kept the son, and she was taking care of him. And I guess what authority did she have to do that? First, Ben said that she had permission from the judge to do that. And then later on, the judge agreed that she could go there and stay. Stay where? Wherever her husband was in Pikeville. So somewhere in Pikeville? I don't know the exact address. Was it important for you with this computer system to know where that location was to make sure that she was only going from point A to point B? She was there, yes, but it showed a violation because I didn't have it in the computer. Why didn't you put it in the computer? Because I didn't know until that she had already got there. Did she go more than once? Oh, yes, she went a lot of times. But despite doing that many times, you never figured out the address in Pike County where she was going? Is that correct? I had the address, but I don't remember it. Did you put it in the system? Didn't put the address in. I just put in that she was allowed out for those times. Did you ever follow up with the court to figure out if the judge had ever actually given her? Yes, the judge said that he did give her permission. So which judge told you that? Kraft. Okay, when did he tell you that? I don't recall. When she have had permission, would she have had permission to do that? I guess from the very get-go, because that notation is included on June 18th, 21, correct? She told me that he was very sick. Her ex-husband? Yes. Do you have any documentation of that conversation with Miss Atkins or conversation with Judge Kraft? Nope. That wouldn't have been the kind of information that you would have included in your records? No. Okay. just looking and flipping through to see if I see any other different kinds of violations. So I think that I heard you say something earlier about Sabrina Atkins having a lot of violations, or more violations than average. Is that correct? It is, because she went to her husband's, and I didn't know until like Mickey would call and tell me, or not Mickey, Ben would call and tell me after she had already left. And once you put it in the computer after she has left, it is still going to show a violation for a while. Is there some way within your system? I thought you mentioned earlier that kind of noting what violations are or not. What I did a daily summary and printed it out. And that when I put what was violated, I put where she went. Where are those records? I don't have them. What happened to them? Well, I don't know, I guess. I threw them away. This was before all of this happened. Did you have any sort of policy with EKCS to keep records for any certain period of time? Bella, get away from her. Come on. Come on. Did you have any sort of policy to keep records for any certain period of time? No. So there is so many that you know, so you would shred them. You shred them. I think you mentioned earlier that you have a separate building on your property. I do. Have you looked through that entire building where you store your records for anything related to this case? Yes. Do you recall having any conversations with Sabrina directly? Yes, several. Okay, what do you recall about conversations with Sabrina? Well, she would just call and tell me that she had to go to her husband or her ex-husband and take care of him. She usually called me when she did that. Okay, and would have been several times. That would have been between June 18th and 8. Do you have any records of those conversations? No. Do you recall there being a violation for Sabrina at one point? She had been out around 2 a.m. in Pike County. Do you recall that? Nope. You don't recall having a conversation with her about that violation? Nope. You don't recall ever telling Sabrina that she wasn't going to be speaking to Ben Fields anymore? That she couldn't talk to him anymore? Nope. Of course not. It's funny. They have very selective memories in these depositions. Aside from the conversations that you do recall having with Sabrina about her going to take care of her ex-husband, anything else that you all discussed aside from that topic? None that I can recall. Hush, quit. What about conversations that you recall having with Ben Fields about Sabrina Atkins? That would be only when she had to go somewhere, like going to her husband's house. You only recall her having to go to her ex-husband's house? I'm sorry. Do you only recall her having to go to her ex-husband's house? Right. Do you ever get a copy, the conditions of a release and judicial decision related to Sabrina Atkins being put on home incarceration? No. You didn't feel it was important for you to review that document yourself? No. I trusted Ben. And I'm sure that he wouldn't have put her on a home incarceration if he didn't have court order. What about a copy of a pretrial bail bond form? No. You never looked at any forms such as that? Nope. Okay. Aside from this attendee report that you were able to generate, is there any other sort of reports that you could obtain through attendee that would relate to Sabrina Atkins and her home incarceration? Nope. So this is it. This is it. What do you recall about Sabrina Atkins being taken out of the home incarceration system for EKCS? Ben called me and said that she was taken off home incarceration on 8/2/21. Did he tell you why? No, they usually don't. They just said that they went off home incarceration. Judge took them off. What would be the circumstance for a judge taking someone off home incarceration? They had served their time, or they might go to prison. Is there some sort of home incarceration completion form that is supposed to be filled out through EKCS? Yes. Did Sabrina ever fill one of those out, to your knowledge? She's not supposed to fill it out. Ben is. Did Ben fill one of those out for her? As far as I know. Did you ever see it? No, I don't see them. Well, who's supposed to see them? He fills them out and takes them to the clerk's office. Okay, so those are forms that get turned into the court. Yes. Okay. Are you aware of any such form ever being filed with the court? In Letcher County? We will start there. I have, yes. Okay. What about Letcher County specifically? I don't recall really on Letcher County. Will you stop and go away? You're driving me crazy. Go on. Take it over. Wouldn't you had needed to provide this offender violation summary document to the circuit court? Never have. No, Ben would do it. But he would only have it if he got it from you. Right. So if Sabrina Atkins violated the terms of her home incarceration 62 times, does that mean there is 62 times that you sent Ben a screenshot of a computer printout to turn into the court? Nope, because every one of those were documented by what she said or what Ben said that the judge said she could do. That's a lot of he said, she said, ain't it? So she didn't actually violate the terms of her home incarceration after all then? No. Okay. You have since come to learn that Sabrina Atkins was not taken off home incarceration on August 2nd, 21, correct? I did, yeah. When did you find that out? When I went to pick up the equipment after Ben, when I fired him. I went to pick up the equipment. First, I didn't believe it. Of course, nobody believed it. BS. Okay. Because I thought, if they take that transmitter off, I'm going to know about it. But when I went to get the equipment, there was a transmitter missing. 1773 was the last 4 digits, I think. And when I talked to the investigator, he said, I know where your transmitter is. I have it. Is that because Sabrina Atkins had it? Uh-huh. And by that investigator, are you talking about Matt Easter with the Kentucky Attorney General's office? That's the one who most of us did not like his interviews. But that's who she's talking about. Yes, Okay, let's back up. Before you went to Letcher County to pick up your equipment, you already knew by that point that there had been some allegations made about Ben Fields and his work for you as a home incarceration officer, correct? Right? And how did you come to learn about those allegations? One night, and I don't have the date, Ben called and said that one of the girls said that he had brought a charge against him and he had been flirting with her. After that, I hung up with him. Mickey Stines called me. Or after that, I hung up with him. Mickey Stines called me. And he said, Patty, have you heard what has happened? And I said, well, no. And I told him what Ben had said. He said, Patty, I have just got what is it? Copy of the suit. He said, it is bad. I said, okay. I hung up. I called Ben and told him that he was no longer a contractor for Eastern Kentucky Corrections. So that was based on Mickey Stines' statement to you that there were bad allegations against him. Did you become aware of the fact that in, I think it was January of 22, maybe February of 22, filed a complaint for charges for escape against Sabrina Atkins? Yes. Did you consult? Did you consult with you at all in doing that? So I don't even know what, when these typos happen like this, like how do you even know what the context is? Drives me crazy. I don't recall. Did he obtain any records from you in seeking that escape charge? I don't recall. Do you have any records that would help you? The only thing that I have is right here. According to these records, does this offender violation summary contain evidence to support an escape charge against Sabrina Atkins? I would have to go back through them, but I don't think so. Because like I said, I did a daily summary and everything was written what that she did. And that daily summary that you wrote down, you have shredded those documents. I don't have them, but Ben told me that she could do these things. And, you know, judge said she could. And then she told me some that the judge said she could. You're just taking everybody's word for it. I mean, doesn't that seem kind of negligent, incompetent? I mean, these are like serious responsibilities and duties. Just kills me. And people out here doing all this stuff, and they have no idea what they're freaking doing. Blows me away. That's right. All he has to do is go to another town or state and keep the vicious cycle alive. And wife is still working in the courthouse, I guess. Legal term, that means bullshit. Was that a very typical thing for a judge to let a person on home incarceration travel a county over to take care of an ex-husband? That was the first time that far. I've had judges to say that they can do. I have even had a judge say that they can go to a ball game and sit and watch their kid play ball. I mean, it's just, was that a judge in Letcher County? No. Were you aware that Ben Fields was communicating with Sabrina Atkins on Facebook Messenger and Snapchat? Nope. Had you have known that, would you have condoned your contractor's communication? I would not have condoned it. Why not? It doesn't look right, for one thing. And if you are friends with them on Facebook, and you were text messaging them back and forth, no. Did you ever bother to check the court records or any kind of public records related to Sabrina's criminal case? No. Do you have access to CourtNet, the electronic record system in Kentucky? No. Stop and go away. You don't have access to that? No, I don't want them. Why not? I just don't. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I would say it has a lot. I do home incarceration, and that is it. But that would give you access to the court orders and other documents that are part of the information that you need to run your home incarceration program. I have never had a need to do that. Okay. So when Sabrina Atkins was taken off home incarceration by EKCS in August of 21, I guess, was this the GPS number that you would have used? The serial number on her ankle monitor? Yep. And I guess to take someone out of your system, so to speak, what happened to that ankle monitor next? Do you know who ended up with it after Sabrina? No. Would you be able to tell that from your records, though? I might could. I don't know. And you referenced earlier an ankle monitor with the last 4 digits of 1773. Did you try to look up and figure out who had that ankle monitor previously, or where it had been, where it came from? What was the story on that? Well, I found out that Sabrina had it. No, I'm sorry, not this one. She had it. I couldn't find it at all. So I double-checked to see if it had been sent back for repair or anything, and it hadn't. And then I met with the investigator. He said he knew. I know where it is. I'm wondering, where was it before it ended up in Sabrina Atkins's possession? Ben had it, because they keep extra ones in case they have to keep some in case they have more people going on home incarceration. You can't say I don't have a unit. Okay, what about when persons on home incarceration had to go and pay their weekly fees? How did that work? I put in a certain time that they are to be out. Is that time noted on Sabrina's attentee violation form? I don't recall. It wouldn't be a violation. Okay. So you would have noted that condition to the home incarceration such that when she left the house to go down to the courthouse to pay those fees, it wouldn't ding as a violation in the system. Right. But you didn't do a similar thing with Sabrina being allowed to go to Pike County to check on her ex-husband, because it was different times, different days. She didn't go and just stay. She would go and stay a few days and then go back to, she was going back and forth. But you are saying there were terms dictated by the court that allowed her to do that. That was your understanding, correct? After a while, at first, Ben just said that she could that. And then the judge said give her permission that she could do it. That is what he told me. That was all according to Ben Fields, right? Let's turn to Jennifer Hill. Bella, the other plaintiff in this case. I have a similar document for her. Ms. Baxter, I would like to mark that as Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. Okay. This one looks a little different. Once you had a chance to look it over, I just want to ask you if that looks familiar. Okay. Does that look familiar to you? Yep. Okay. And would this be a record that was generated by a attentee for Jennifer Hill? Yes. Is that your handwriting on the document? It is. That is when she first got hooked up. And I didn't have it in there. I failed to put in that she was getting hooked up and on her way home. I didn't have that in there. Is this the kind of document I think you were referencing earlier that you would make notes on whether it was or was not a violation? It is not the same. It would be a daily summary, but it would be close to this, okay? What is this? What would you call this document? I don't know. Event history, I guess. That is what it says. Okay. And I see some of them There are 2 columns on the far right. No GPS and charging. And there are check marks in some of these boxes. Would a row with no check marks next to it be a violation, or does this document evidence violations of her home incarceration by Jennifer Hill or not? Yep. Like the 4:07 a.m. to 4:59. That could have been just getting out of charge, or could have been with no GPS. I don't know really on that one. I would have had it written down. I know, but I hate to even say this. One night she called and she had to go to the store for some personal items, okay? Are personal items allowed? No, but in that case, I did let her. I mean, I'm a woman. So you remember having some conversations with Jennifer Hill? Nope. Well, you remember that conversation. I do remember that one. Her GPS shut down. That is where her battery was getting low. And I'm pretty sure that I called and told her that she had to charge. She wouldn't keep her charged was the problem with her, I think. Okay, on the 3rd page, you see a map of sorts. I realized this was in color originally, but I don't have a color printer, sadly. And for that reason, it might be a little hard to tell. But just generally speaking, what is this image depict? Okay, well, do you see just the red dot that is where she is? That is probably where her home is. I'm not for sure because I haven't looked at this in forever. I don't even remember. I don't recall. Okay, that is a map that would be generated by Attenti that would help you determine whether or not that someone was violating home incarceration, correct? Yep. Okay. On this 4th page, kind of like a profile of sorts. What number 4? Oh, I see. I thought that was 12. Now, I'm looking at 13. I don't see a 13. 13 is down here in the middle space. I can't find it. Right after the map. Yeah, that's it. Is this all information that you would have plugged into the Attenti program when the person got initially put on home incarceration? Yes. Is that the kind of information that would have obtained from the application form? Yeah. Go on. Go on. No. Go on. Sheesh. Alan, please come get her. Is that the kind of information that you would have obtained from the application form? Yes. And the court order also? Yes. Okay. And I see that you are listed there as an assigned officer. Uh-huh. Were you the assigned officer identified for everybody in the Attenti system? Yep. Yeah, as soon as I'm done with this one, just take her in there. She's bugging me big time. And then the last 2 pages, I think. There you go. Look very similar, at least, to the front 2 pages. Is there any difference between those 2? Yes. Maybe the dates are different. The dates are different. Plus the system that I used was different because it was the one that you had to plug into the phone line. The last one was not GPS. This is not GPS. So in 2020, at least for Jennifer Hill, you were not using a GPS system? Right. But by 21, you were? Yes. And that is where that I see those words, untrusted. And is that term in sync with the monitor being moved or vibration? Okay. I would like to mark this one also, number 5. Here's another set of documents. Those are some more documents that we got from you, from the subpoena response. So these records all relate to Jennifer Hill. Is that correct? Yep. Okay. And these are records that you did have up in Greenup or as part of EKCS's records, correct? Yes. So we have a conditions of release and judicial decision is the first page that we have got here. And it looks like one of the listed conditions that Judge Kraft was HIC/EM. Does that stand for home incarceration electronic monitoring? Yep. Okay. Under other details, it says if defendant cannot abide by terms of HICEM, then she is to report to the Letcher County Jail. Do you see that? No, but I'm sure it is on there. It is right under other details on the previous page. Okay. I'm just wondering who sets the terms of HICEM. I do. And you make the person who is on home incarceration aware of those, as you testified to previously via of that contract and via, verbal information shared when they are hooked up to the ankle monitoring system, correct? Yep. Okay. Was there ever any conversation between EKCS and the court about what kind of terms you should or should not apply or how that should work or the parameters at all? Nope. So you just had full discretion to decide whatever the terms of home incarceration and electronic monitoring should or should not be, correct? Yep. Can't make this stuff up, y'all. Man. Which in this case would be just that Jennifer Hill should comply with what you decide, correct? Uh-huh. Let's look at the second page. This is another document that was part of your documents for Jennifer Hill. Do you know who Amanda Sexton is? She is the witness down there at the bottom. She was on home incarceration once. Okay, or twice. I just recognized the name. Okay. There may be more than one Amanda Sexton in Letcher County, too. Yeah. I found it kind of interesting, too. And I don't know if you would know the answer, but the conditions of her release and judicial decision were entered on August 17th. And then it is not for a couple weeks that this AOC form 365.1 is dated. Do you see that? No. Up at the top, it says 9/2/20. Yep. Nope. I am a unit off, I'm realizing. The date seems a little wacky to me. In your experience, is there any reason why the bail bond form would come weeks after the conditions of release and judicial decision? I have no idea. Neither do I. So what information from the first two pages would you use to plug into your home incarceration system? To inform the terms of their home incarceration. Give me that question again. I'm just wondering, you have these first two pages. These are part of the documents that you had for Jennifer Hill. I am just serious. What information? I am just serious? I guess it means curious. I mean, my gosh. You got to play 20 guesses. Figure out what word they mean. What information that you took from these that helped you do your job? All of them. Okay, explain to me what you mean by that. It is basically the same as what is on the court order. Okay, so what information specifically? Well, there's no way of knowing if they used alcohol or controlled substances. Why not? How would I know if they used alcohol or substances? I thought some ankle monitors could check for that. No, they might, but mine don't. Do you think the Letcher Circuit Court was aware that EKCS had no ability to? I would not know that on that. Let me finish my question. You have no reason to know whether the Letcher court system and Letcher court judges were aware that you unable to monitor whether someone was consuming alcohol or illegal substances. I don't know of any home incarceration program that does that. I know that you mentioned earlier that some people would go to get drug tested. Now, sometimes they would go for drug testing, and that would be another violation because they have to call me that day. They call like at different times to show up. And I would put it in the computer, but it will still show a violation if they went for drug testing or something, because they can't tell me a day ahead of time or 2 days ahead of time on that. Okay, and this third page here is the home incarceration completion form. It says Patty Greer, President, but that is you, correct? Yes. And signed by Ben Fields on your behalf? Is that correct? Yes. And you did keep a copy of this at EKCS, correct? If you have it, I'm sure that I did. That is what I'm trying to figure out. Why would you have had a copy? Because when Ben but when I fired him, I went over there and he gave me some papers and some he didn't. This is the ones that he gave me. So you did talk to Ben Fields a second time after you terminated him, I guess. He met me at the courthouse and gave me everything. Did he say anything to you at that time? Nope. Did he apologize to you? Nope. Mickey Stines apologized to you, didn't he? 1,000,000 times. So what did he say when he apologized? He just said, Patty, I'm so sorry. I just would have never thought that of him. Said nobody thought it of him. That even the judges and everybody is just shocked. He apologized so much that I told him that I was going to get mad if he didn't quit. Did he do that over the phone or in writing? Over the phone, in person. I have seen where you have given us a copy of Jennifer Hill's, the contract that she signed. Do you have a copy of her contract? Did I have one? I have one, I think, Mr. Jones said. I will say also that I have not seen a copy of the Jennifer Hill application. If you have either of those documents, I have gave you all that I have. I don't have them down here. Me look and see what else I've got. Can we go off the record? And then they go off the record. Let's see. Oh, y'all. It's 128 pages. I think I'm going to end this one for tonight, y'all. We've been on here 2 hours and 47 minutes. And my dog's ready to go outside. She kind of growls at me. It's not a mean growl. It's a playful growl. She's ready to go potty. So I need to do that. Okay. So I'm going to cut this one off here. And we will do the second half of it tomorrow. I'm about halfway through. I was hoping that we could I was trying my hardest to do the entire direct exam on one and then do the cross-examination on the second one. But I think we're about on the halfway mark, so we'll just do it this way. And we will finish it up tomorrow. And I have some other documents and stuff that we really, really need to look at. A lot of past history, corruption, people who were charged and lost their licenses, and just a history of some of the bad stuff that was going on in Whitesburg and how it has traveled down through their children. Generations. We've got generations of families in this. So we're going to look at all that. All right. I will see you all tomorrow. Stay blessed. Stay warm. Peace out, Girl Scout. Good night, y'all. Love you.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dog passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.